You know, it seems like I'm waiting later and later each month to do the previous month's book haul to a point where I'm forgetting what I got, and I know that these are real, just awful problems to have, right? Let's talk about September's book haul. Hey, what's up, bookworms and book hoarders? Mike back with another book haul, this time for the month of September. I thought it'd be nice to take a quick little break from Fright Fest 2020, kind of break up the monotony a little bit, and talk about my book purchases from last month. So anything that you guys want to talk about that you picked up this month, hey, I hope you'll join me in the comments. But here's what I got, and I'm going to start this month by talking about my Kindle purchases. I had someone last month that told me you shouldn't cover Kindle purchases because they don't count. Well, I very much disagree because I am buying more and more stuff on Kindle these days. Guys, if you don't know, Kindle puts out like all the time popular books that you know for like $1.99. You just have to check it every single day. So let's talk about some of those things. I picked up the first two books in the War for the Rose Throne. That is a series by Peter Macklin. I believe it's McLean. I believe it's Macklin. I first got wind of this series when I had that interview with John Gwynne, the writer of the Banished Lands, that's Faithful and the Fallen. And he said that he was reading that right now. It was very, very grimdark, probably exactly what I was looking for. So it was something that was already on my radar, but then the news broke that there is going to be a television series adaptation for it. And I think the first thing that came up was I was like, okay, well, let's look this up. Oh, the series isn't complete yet. Well, I know I have that George R.R.M. syndrome to where I don't want to ever pick up a series that isn't complete, but it sounds like he's a pretty brief writer, and I'm not worried about it catching up. But I don't think I'll be reading that anytime soon. It's just nice to have them for when that series is complete. Right now I've got so many series I want to read. I'm trying to stick with a lot of the ones that are actually complete right now, so I don't have so many open-ended series that I'm reading at once. But I've heard nothing but great things from them. A lot of Joe Abercrombie fans are really high on Peter Macklin, so that's always going to pique my interest. Next up, obviously, I continued my Dresden Files reading. Yes, I did get an e-arc, but I did actually buy it on digital because I made the decision when I was first getting into the series that I was going to buy them, and I just started looking them up, and some of the hardcovers of the earlier editions are just astronomical price. So I made the executive decision that I was going to buy them on mass market paperback so the series would match. Very OCD like that, if you can't tell. I like my series to match, and that one I have to wait a little while for the mass markets to come out. So for Peace Talks and for Battleground now, I have them both on my Kindle for now. Always want to help support the author, obviously, so I have no problems buying that twice, especially for someone like Jim, who's been awesome to the channel, and might have news on that sometime soon. Next up, an author that comes up a lot in my recommendations. When I talked about John Gwynne, when I first started reading Faith and Fall, a lot of people said, hey, you should check out David Gemmell, because I think you're enjoying John Gwynne this much. He very much feels like a throwback to David Gemmell. Now, I had Legend, that's book 1 in Journey, on my Kindle for a while, just based off of feedback. Well, I found a nice deal, and I got the next 10 books, and I don't know if that's all of them. I think it might be all the ones that Mr. Gemmell wrote before he, I believe he passed away, didn't he? Anyhow, so I picked those up. So David Gemmell is very much on my radar. I get asked that a lot. Guys, it's just, I can't read everything at once. You know, I've got all kinds of series going on right now, and I've got that Malazan read-along coming up very soon. That's kind of taking the priority, but I do get asked this quite a bit. Where, you know, when are you going to read this, that? It's not because I don't want to, guys. I wish I could clone myself and just read everything. So I don't know when I'm going to get to Gemmell, but yes, it is very much on my radar. The last one on the Kindle was a series that I get a lot of recommendations for in my Dresden Files videos. And I know nothing about this. I'm talking about the Iron Druid Chronicles by Kevin Hearn. Went ahead and picked up that whole set because it's complete. Thought that was excellent. But I don't know very much about it. Just lots of people in those Dresden Files comments say that the Iron Druid and was it Larry Correa, is that his name? The Monster Hunter International series. Those are the most comparable to the style of urban fantasy that Jim Butcher writes. So again, that's just one where I took a leap of faith. I saw a good deal and I jumped on it because, you know, hey, it's not like I'm ever going to stop reading, even if I'm not getting to it anytime now. And I don't suspect, obviously, besides Dresden, which I already read, I'll be getting any of these anytime soon. But again, just because I know what's happening with Malazan doesn't mean I'm not going to read any other series going forward. So we will get to that when we get to it. But let's go ahead and move into the physical side of the book haul. No one needs an introduction to this. Kings of the Wild, Nicholas Eames. This is a book that has gotten unanimously 100% thumbs up ratings from everyone that I've spoke to. I don't know why people think that this book is going to click so much for me, except they know that I'm a dinosaur and I like dinosaur rock. And apparently this has lots of throwbacks to classic 70s guitar rock, which I am very much a huge, huge fan of, obviously. So I don't know how he's going to tie that into a fantasy novel, but hey, you had my attention to imagine a reunion tour of like Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and Black Sabbath. That's kind of what I got told. So I have, again, no idea anything what this book is about, except that everybody, especially one of the mods on my server, never stops talking about how great this book is. So I'm excited. I am actually trying to fit this in before Rhythm of War comes out, and if I don't, it'll be right after. So it's coming this year. I think I've told this story about 24 times on the channel. Was back in the year like 2000 when I first discovered A Song of Ice and Fire, and I was so excited about it, I called my brother, who I looked up to his fantasy opinion because he's the one who opened the door to me for fantasy authors when I was younger. So I was so excited to call him and talk to him about this series. So he cuts me off mid-sentence and he says, "Man, quit reading that Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn ripoff and read Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn." I'm just like, what are you talking about? I don't know if that's accurate or not, but he has been a champion for Tad Williams' Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series since, said I was 20 years ago. So I had already had a Dragonbone chair, but I picked up Stone of Farewell, obviously, and of course, the biggest paperback I've ever seen in my life, and that is To Green Angel Tower. And I can only assume that he had a contract for 3 books, because I see no reason why you're not going to split this into 4 books. You know, guys, I always say don't prolong it, because look at this. You could have wrote this book twice. This is 2 books. This is definitely 2 books. I always say, hey, quit taking your trilogy and fluffing it out, Brent Weeks, into 5 books when you don't need to do that. With something like this, I think, okay, maybe if you feel like you had enough of a story, you can go ahead and break that into a 4th book. Again, this is a series, obviously, that has a great, great reputation. Tad Williams is considered one of the pillars of the fantasy community, and I've never actually dove into his stuff. So that's another one. I have no idea when I'm going to read it, but I definitely do want to. I don't know about those Song of Ice and Fire comparisons, if they're accurate or not. Like I said, the only thing I have to go off there is my older brother, whose opinion on fantasy books I always looked up to. So I'll be interested to see if I feel the same. Last month, I talked about how I went ahead and picked up book 1 of Powder Mage. Well, I got the other 2. These covers are slick, aren't they? I love them. They're so good looking. But another series that I feel like people just won't shut up about how great it is. Apparently, you got wizards like freebasing gunpowder like it's cocaine. Get magic powers. That had me interested from go. I don't know if that's accurate. Again, these are just things that I've heard. But I think that Brian McClellan and Nicholas Eames seem to be 2 fantasy authors, modern fantasy authors, that I haven't heard a single negative thing about their books yet. So I'll be curious to see how that goes. And the last one, this one's a little more obscure. It seems like I haven't found anyone who's actually even heard of this series. And I found out about it through a targeted ad on Facebook. So you know how those could go sometimes. But this is book 1 by Melissa McPhail of a series called, God, what is it called? A Pattern of Shadow and Light. And I mean, the cover's awesome looking, ain't it? Anyhow, so obviously, like all fantasy, it gets compared to something. And this one gets compared a ton to the Wheel of Time. And I actually kind of like perused her website, and she really communicates with her fans a lot. And you guys know that's a weakness of mine, is authors that communicate with their fans. They mingle with us peasants. I really enjoy when authors do that, and she does quite a bit. And she's writing her 6th book in this series right now. I think she believes she wants it to be 7 books when it's done. There's 5 out right now, but apparently this is just like so thick. Apparently there's over like 30 POV main characters and dozens of side characters, but there's like 17 or 20 story arcs going on at one time. Wow. So this sounds very complex, but I obviously wouldn't be starting it until the series is complete, which it sounds like she will be doing in the next couple of years. But that's just, I don't know. That sounds really like a heavy read. But a lot of the people who have actually read it said this is one of those where the Wheel of Time comparisons are actually pretty spot on. This one's kind of a cheat because I did list the arc that I got for it last month. But I did go ahead and get my hardcover of The Trouble with Peace by Joe Abercrombie. Obviously, I'm a big time Joe Abercrombie honk, so I'm going to support him no matter what way I can. I also bought the digital version, so support Joe Abercrombie, guys. I know that it seems like all anyone ever does anymore is buys his audiobooks, and authors don't get a ton of the proceeds from that. So if you like the audiobooks, think about supporting the guy. And I would like him to keep writing First Law books. So I would really appreciate if you guys would consider doing that. But I will say I'm very disappointed in the American version of this book compared to the British version of it, where they have inside, they have like this beautiful tapestry and maps and everything. And we get a quote by Nietzsche. So as much as I think that the cover looks really good, yeah, come on, throw us a bone here in the States. We like the guy too. I talked in a previous book haul about Christopher Rocchio. He's a guy who sent me the first book in his Sun Eater series, and he signed it for me and just said, you know, hey, read it whenever you get a chance. Whatever, you know, don't have to read it or anything like that. He was just such a cool dude and nice to talk to. We did some email correspondence back and forth for a while. We talked about some of our favorite books, just, you know, just shot the shit like you would if you were just like meeting in a coffee house or something like that. And he was just a very nice guy. And what I said was, look, I'm going to support you regardless because of how decent you've been to me. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to buy your other 2 books in this series on hardcover. And I said, if I do that, would you do me a favor? If I buy them and I send them to you, will you sign them for me? And he said, absolutely, of course. And I was like, hey, just let me know how much to have shipped back. Don't worry about it. He covered it for me. So obviously a very cool guy. And I started reading Empire of Silence this morning, so I'm very excited. And he's been like, hey, I'm kind of worried, what if you don't like the books? And I'm like, that's the problem of being a book collector. I've got 3 Scott Lynch books over there. I've got 3 Patrick Rothfuss books over there that I'll probably never read 4 of those 6. So that's just kind of what it's like when you're being a book collector. But again, I just want to thank Mr. Rocchio. This is so cool of him to do that. And he did it fast. And, you know, he's in the middle of writing his 4th book in this series right now, and to take the time to do something like that, break his stride, to go to his post office, pick that up, and ship it back to me and stuff, just awesome. It makes me really, what I did, I moved him up my TBR really quick. What it was is like I didn't have it on the schedule until December, but I started to think I was having a little bit of fantasy burnout, so I moved it up. I just flipped it with another book, the last in the Banished Land series, where I just said I just want to maybe get some sci-fi in there. About 3 chapters in, and I basically think it feels like a little bit like Red Rising, which you guys know I'm a huge fan of. So I'll report on that a little more maybe on the weekly update when I get a little further into the book. But I'm very excited to be starting that series. And the last thing, guys, I did get something from a viewer this month. You guys remember sometimes I'll use that Darth Vader mug. It just Darth Vader on the back. It says, you don't know the power of the dark side. My kids got that for me for years ago because my oldest, who at the time was the only kid I had, he thought it was interesting that I just drank my coffee black. First of all, I'm like, how do you know this much about coffee? But anyhow, I drank my coffee black. So he was like, oh, power of the dark side. So he thought that was amusing. That mug broke. It was very heartbreaking to me, and I went to go on Amazon to see if I could find the same exact mug, and they didn't have it anymore. All they had was this one, and so I went ahead and put it on my wish list, and a viewer went onto my wish list. I don't know if you can even see the Star Wars logo on there. Anyway, went onto the wish list and purchased it for me, and it came with a note, and it's from Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. He knows who he is. I prefer not to reveal his real identity. It's like, who's the third man? But he sent me a note that said, hey, here's a mug to help catch all those tears from the upcoming Malazan read along. So, ooh, okay, there's a nice little tease for Malazan there. But guys, that was my month. What did you get? Please drop in the comments. Let me know what you guys got. Do you have anything to add to any of these series? Please do so. And tell me if you think Kindle books should count on a book haul, because I absolutely think that they do. We'll see. So I'll talk to you guys there.